To WHWN Business Radio X at gmail.com, and we will ask it. So welcome, Angela.
Good morning.
So what drove you to create Writer for Hire?
I needed to make some money, and I needed to stay at home with my children.
Those are two really good reasons.
Yeah, those are two really good reasons. I was dedicated to being a stay-at-home mom, but at the same time, one needs money. Mm-hmm. And the kids were growing, and you have plans for the future and that sort of thing. And there came a point where the workplace was not suitable for our lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I had to figure out something. And I've been a writer my entire life. I was born a writer. I will die a writer. It is in my genes. There is nothing I can do about it.
She has a pen in her hand as we talk.
Yes, I do. And the thing is that I had to figure out a way to monetize it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, I believed all the hype. Go get Writers Marketplace, pitch all of these ideas here, there, and yonder, blah, blah, blah. And I spent 2 years doing that. Lost a ton of money. Also had a lot of ideas stolen. They say, oh, that never happens. Yeah, it does, which is why I thought, why am I doing all the work and not getting any of the benefit? Mm-hmm. These were magazines that I read on a regular basis. I had been a reader for many years. I knew what they wanted, so that wasn't working. So I started looking around, and I said to myself, there's a lot of businesses that hire writers worse than I write. And I'm reading this stuff. Big corporations are having, these things, and I'm going, mm-hmm. They're not. These big corporations are not going to hire me. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't have a fancy office. I don't have a sales force. They don't want to deal with me because they may have thought that I couldn't do the job mm-hmm. or whatever. So I looked around and identified a need. And what I identified was small business to medium-sized businesses did not have anyone to write for them. Okay. So they were doing a worse job than mm-hmm. the other so-called professionals. So I thought, okay, fine. So I introduced myself literally door to door. Email only belonged to the geeks back then. I mean, they were total geeks mm-hmm. or corporate structure. Individual people didn't really have email. There was no kind of marketing like that.
Yeah, we call that the dark ages.
Yeah, but I actually liked it because there was a personal touch there.
Sure there was.
So from that is how I found the need. And then little by little, as word spread mm-hmm. of what I could do, then I got my first corporate client. I was freaking out.
I'll bet you were.
I was. But, boy, let me tell you what, I learned a lot mm-hmm. From dealing with it. It was the Nally Automotive Group here in Atlanta, actually. And I did stuff for them for many years. I'm still doing some things for them, but they've had been bought out by a larger company. And, uh-huh. Those issues come into play and national accounts and stuff like that. And I'm back to being a nobody with that. But
you're always Angela with Writer for Hire.
Yes, I am. And I still do a great job, and I still do things. So business has changed from when I went into business to now. I can walk you through a timeline of 20 years of the landscape of my business.
But you stay current.
I stay current,
and you meet the express need.
Yes, I do.
I want to point out to our listeners that we talked about this a little bit before going on the air. You're the first really, in a way, direct competition that I've had on the show, mm-hmm. and yet we're not really, because we serve different target markets. But the interesting thing is I have had other people ask to be on the show, and I give them the same answer that I give anybody, and mm-hmm. that is, well, I always say, tell me how you fit the category of what we do. And that's particularly of concern to me for writers, because why would I invite somebody on who might take my business?
Exactly, yeah.
But, you and I met first, and then I started the radio show or something like that. But it became very clear that you serve a whole different group.
That is correct. And yet we have something in common. And what we have in common is a love of language and the proper use of it. And by proper, I don't mean exactly where punctuation or those sorts of things are, though they are important. Punctuation is power.
Yes.
I taught that in some creative writing classes that I did for some 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders for 4 years. That was just wonderful. Punctuation is power, and I understand that. But, I know someone who's a slave to punctuation so much that they have sucked the life out of a story because they didn't understand when not to use
Exactly.
that thing. And I think that that's something you and I have in common, that we do understand that.
It is.
Yeah.
I do. The other thing we have in common is neither of us has formal degrees in writing.
This is correct. And I'm proud of it, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I've met a lot of people who have that formal degree who
Mm-hmm.
are a slave to convention.
Yeah.
And you know, boy, when you read some of the classic things through the years,
Yes.
whether it's in business magazines, whether it's in novels, whether it's in biographies or autobiographies, a lot of these people that wrote it did not have the formal degrees.
No, they
but
didn't.
they knew how to tell a frickin' story.
Yeah, they did.
And they did it.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have the advantage of knowing both of my guests here, and I could see Spencer twitch a little bit there because I know what his background is, and conventional has not been one of his words, one of his practices. And so I know when I get to him, he's going to elaborate more on the same kind of thing. You take what
Excellent.
you have and you work on your passion.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you've written how many books?
Written a bunch.
How many got published?
How many are in the marketplace?
Yeah, there we go.
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are in the marketplace. Yeah, 5 are in the marketplace. Amazon, you can find them, or on my website. I've helped other people to design a cover for theirs, and I also lay out the interior of their book to give them a distinctive look. Because to me, words, you probably read on my website, I help pick, place, and produce the words.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's not just which words you use. It's how you put them on a page that carries power also. And because I'm a graphic designer also, I see that up front.
Sure you do.
And so therefore, when I see things that are laid out, I go, oh, man. So that's one of the things I try to do with books, is help people to know, you know, some people aren't that great a writer, and I know that. And I know a guy that wrote his very last book. He's very close to dying, and he wanted to get this one last book out. And it's a pretty good story. He just didn't have time or energy to ramp it up to that degree that I know it could be. When I designed his book, I wanted to make sure that it was something he could physically hold in his hand and all his friends would be proud to see.
Oh, that's great.
So that when they did read the story, even though there's some things lacking and it could have been better, as a package, it's going to do well for him. And it's going to be something he can be proud of. And I wanted him to be proud.
Well, one of the things you lift up there is the importance of cover design. And I hasten to say to people all the time, just because you know a graphic designer does not mean that graphic designer is good at doing book covers.
Absolutely. That's true. So true. And just like a line editor is not a developmental editor, there are so many different kinds of editors. There's all kinds of different graphic designers. There's graphic designers I know that I look at them, their stuff, and I say, where did they come up with that idea? But it's because they're functioning in a different market with a different end result that I've not done.
Sure.
I would never have come up with it. Same way with covers. There's some, like bodice rippers. Don't even get me started. I will never design one of those. I don't get it, you know. But business books, children's books, crime novels, that I get, and that I can do.
Have you found it hard being a businesswoman? I know I grew up with both my stepmom and my mom started their own company, and it was twice as hard for them to make it in the business world and have their own business just because they were a woman. Has that been difficult for you?
Well, yes, but see, here's the thing. That's pretty much the way of the world. I had a man tell me the other day in a business meeting, it was just he and I, and he hastened to inform me, as a Southern, he's not a Southern man, and a Southern man would never do this. I will not tell you where he's from, but you will more than likely get it as soon as I say. He goes, Angela, you need to understand this is a man's world. And I went, yes, I know. Thank you. So moving on. But the point is, I don't really care. Instead of, I don't worry about the barriers in the way. I pretty much try to go around them. And I'd go around them as best I can. And I feel like if a lot of women would just do that and stop whining, then they too will move forward. This whining mentality, I could do 2 hours on that, so I will stop right
Well,
now.
you sound like you're ahead of the game. So.
Yeah, but you have a book about that too, don't you?
Yes. It's a book called Opportunity Meets Motivation, and this is the book that when
we are going to offer free, autographed even, and what you have to do is the first person who emails me at Tim at WHWNBusinessRadioX@gmail.com and says, I want Angela's book. You get it. And look, if you're listening to the delayed broadcast, as it were, the MP3, don't think that you can't still be first.
That's
so
true.
just send it in, and you'll get a copy of the book. So talk about the book a little bit.
The title of the book is Opportunity Meets Motivation, which, by the way, I will have to go on the record as saying I hate it.
Your title?
The title. It was not my idea.
Uh-oh.
I came up with several others that I really enjoyed more, but this was a book representing more than just me.
Okay.
There was 3 other women, and together we told a 360-degree story of the different ways of getting into business for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I had to bow to them. And when those 3 told me that of all the titles that were in the list, and the list was yay long, this one was the one that they liked.
Uh-huh.
I said, okay. And I went with it. And I'm not unhappy with it. Like, I don't think it's ew. I just felt like the one that I had was better. But that was my opinion. No one else shared it. And I was happy to move on. And you can see what's in print. Opportunity Meets Motivation.
There it is.
But
there
what
it
it's
is.
about is the stop whining and move on, and getting over that. And then how we each did it, what our hurdles were. We all had individual stories. And then at the backside of the book is some very, I don't want to call it super detailed, but it's very upfront answers to questions for people who want to go into business.
Oh, great.
Things that you should think of first before you think of whether or not you should be incorporated, even though we do cover that. And there's several sections that deal with these things. Think about these things.
Yeah.
And you may decide you don't want to be in business for yourself.
No, your focus currently is more on songs and lyrics, isn't it?
Well, I am pushing hard into that, I will tell you. I still have my customer base, and I'm still servicing them. And, of course, if they send me business, I'm happy. And I will not turn it down. But it is funny how all of a sudden music became this thing. I've always loved music. I've always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed the study of lyrics for the purpose of being a writer, learning more how to use it. But this month, 2 years ago, music chose me in a way that I could never have foreseen, and I could not ignore it. And to ignore it, I would have been a very sick person physically, because it was killing me. So I paid attention, and now I feel a whole lot better. And
well, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing. But I am liaisoning with a lot of producers, a lot of singer-songwriters. I'm moving forward. I'm a member of the Recording Academy.
You've got all the credentials.
I'm a member of CSAC, which is a performing rights organization, as both a songwriter and a publisher. I've got ideas for moving the publishing side forward, representing part-time songwriters. I mean, there's a lot of business out there, and I've got to push hard on it, and I have been.
Great. What advice would you give to people who want to write?
Read. Please read. You cannot write if you don't read. The reason you read is you're studying how sentences work together, first of all, how one word impacts another, and how those strung together into a sentence impact other sentences, and how those paragraphs impact other paragraphs, so that you finally, when you string the paragraphs together, you have a chapter, and those chapters put together now make a book. Now, it sounds awfully complicated. It isn't. But it is a craft, and it is something you have to work at. And unfortunately, in our feel-good society, people think, "Ooh, I have a thought, and it's creative, and it's perfect as it is because I feel good about it." Boo-hoo, get over it when nobody buys it. Because let me tell you something.
Don't hold back here.
I shan't. The thing is that just if if you read it to your relatives and they go, we love it. Well, yeah, your relatives are going to say that because they got to sit at the dinner table with you or go to bed with you that night.
Thank you for saying that, because I had to deal with that with a client last night.
Yes,
literally.
yes.
So,
yes.
Well, I need to move on, but if people want to be in contact with you, ask you about your business, your writing journey, Angela, what's the best way to be in touch?
The best way, all contact information can be found at my website, and that is, of course, the W at the front, Angela Durden. That is ANGELADURDEN.com. Facebook, Twitter,
It's all
phone
there.
number, fax, mailing address.
And a whole series of face photos.